Explosive start there, Catherine. So this is the Prince Philip Challenge Trophy for Junior Women's 8.
Yeah, and this is another of the events. It's still relatively a new event at Henley Royal Regatta, and we just see the standard going up and up and up every year, and it's such a great sort of ambition for these young students to come here and be part of, again, on this course, this very historic moment.
So I wonder if this is tactical. I can see the Henley crew on the left. Their cocks have got them tucked in quite tightly to the side. And it may be tactical because the headwind is really strong, probably stronger in the middle of the course, but already we can see Headington School, closest to our camera, have stolen 2 or 3 seats, maybe more, on Henley already. What a start.
It is a start, and obviously we'd said before the race, Headington are definitely favourites in this race, but what Henley will probably do as well is you know, how explosive can they be? How long can they hold on to? How can they unsettle that Headington sort of confidence that starts from that first stroke? And they're still got the overlap, there's still that sort of sense, but when you're in the stern of a boat that's behind in an 8, you're a long way back from the opposition now, so it's going to take a lot of mental strength for that Henley crew.
Yeah, so just as you mentioned that, look at the left of your picture there. You've got Matilda Lay in the Cox's seat and Sophie Eltz in the stroke seat of the Henley crew to the left of our picture. See how far behind they are now, being able to even see out of the corners of their eyes the stern of the yellow boat that is being driven so powerfully by Headington School. And well, that's a tall order this early in the race. They really have to hang on, Henley, now. Yeah,
and what's great is, you know, Headington got that jump out. They really did move almost a full boat length out within a, you know, almost, you know, by the time they were through the island, they'd already moved out. But Henley are holding on. And I think when you're in a boat, you know, you'd want almost, it's like your fingernails on the edge of the cliff. You are holding on to the edge of that boat. And while you've got an overlap, you still feel there's belief. And it's good because it means also Headington will be not necessarily unsettled, but they'll, you know, as the leading crew, you're kind of quite bothered when you can't shake off that chasing crew.
So 64 fingernails in the boat of Henley Rowing Club, clinging onto the stern, the yellow stern of Headington School. Headington School, as I said, won the national schools. The margin over Henley was about 12 seconds, so we're probably seeing that form having been sustained here, given the explosive start from the girls at Headington School. Really like the way they're rowing, and you can see how they've managed to achieve those results. But right now, you can see some of the wind affecting these crews. We're coming into a more exposed part of the course here.
Yeah, and I think, you know, with 8s, with quads, with that sort of multiple blade angle, you then see when the wind does catch, because what you'll often see is even with really precise blade work, you'll see the odd blade popping up or popping down, and just as it gets caught by a gust. So it's a really good thing to keep an eye on, and just how precise these crews can stay, because one blade being caught out can be enough to change the check of the boat.
Absolutely. I think you can also see here, to an extent, how the crews are having to, the coxes are having to steer the crews sort of almost slightly sideways across the course into this wind. You can see the flags behind waving to show you that. And Henley just moving to straighten up, moving a little bit more into the middle of the course now as we look at back the Henley crew. Really flat, dynamic rowing from both crews here. Beautiful display of 8s rowing.
Yeah, they're both really good technique, especially in these, we keep saying, these quite challenging conditions, and actually very good coxing of when you have to adjust in and out of that wind to not do anything too harsh, too severe, so the boat doesn't sort of kick round too quickly. It's a really nice adjustment from the Henley cox there.
So here we are looking at Headington School, who are National Schools Regatta champions and obviously want to put their name on the Prince Philip Challenge Cup, named last year for Prince Philip, and the event only started in 2021. It's held by St Catherine's of Australia. We've seen some of their crews out here, but Headington want to make this their year, and they're putting an extremely strong marker down for the other crews in this competition.
Yeah, and that's the bit we've just seen them sort of break that cover, so they don't have the overlap anymore. And for Headington, what you'll often see is crews, once they've got that break, they've been working for a little while to get there, they build in confidence, the shoulders drop in relaxation, and the length starts to really kick in. So in, again, tricky conditions, headwind conditions, if you can bring that little bit of relaxation and length and confidence with it, you start to pull it right away from crews.
So beautiful chance to see the two crews alongside each other. It looks to me that we're starting to see a little bit of tiredness creep into that Henley Rowing Club crew. Some of the tight blade work, the discipline, the synchronicity may be starting to fade as people are really struggling physically. We both know what it feels like to be in that position, Catherine. It's really tough, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think what's brilliant is Henley. I mean, I agree that the Henley blade work isn't quite as clean, quite as clinical as we've seen from Headington. But like you said, the last time they raced, there was a sort of 12-second gap. Now, one of the big incentives for Henley will be, even if they drop behind, if they can narrow that 12-second gap, then they've moved on a lot since the last time they raced. So it's a lot of it's mind games as well, of just keeping close, even if you're going to come in second. Just how close can you get to that opposition?
We can see from the 3/4 mile marker there, you can see the 2 and the 1 in red showing the distance between the crews. So just a bit of clear water between the two. So that's probably, what, 5 seconds or so gap. So when we're just over halfway down the course, you can see the umpire is just putting the flag in the bag again, having warned Headington. There we can see the tape on the stern. We mentioned they'd had a bit of an incident on the way to the start. Bit of running repairs, but as long as you can race, I don't think it's slowing them down, is it?
I don't think it is. And then interesting, when these things happen, often it's how you deal with it. So, you know, I mean, things in the warm-up and the start area, crashes can happen, things can, you know, we've all had when steering wires broken and snapped and foot plates gone, and actually it's how you deal with it as opposed to what's actually happened. So if you can say it's not going to slow us down, it's not affecting us, we're not going to worry about it, we're not going to think about it, we're still going to race, then that's an impressive crew.
Absolutely. Well, really calm, cool heads in the Henley boat, but it's Headington who retain the advantage here. We're looking at the back of 17-year-old Alice Stapley in the bow seat, and in front of her Emma Annalise Miles, as Matthew Pinsent warns with flag and megaphone. The headwind makes it hard for him to be heard, so he really wants the athletes to know, and the coxswain will have to be told by Sophie Haseman in the stroke seat what Matthew's doing. She can't see because he's right behind, and well, she's corrected pretty quickly. Cox, Sophie, Wrightson steering them back again. Again, partly I think a bit of cross headwind here, pushing them across the river. They want to be, you know, Pinsent's launch is right down the middle line, so they need to be to the left.
And often what you have is you've got a slight wind coming in from the side, your boat actually needs to be at an angle to be going straight, because the wind's constantly pushing it one side, one side.
As you say that, that's exactly what we can see happening here. It's just moving around. Matthew's just hesitating to race. He doesn't want to give them too much input because he wants to see them correcting. You can see that they've taken the action. It's great umpiring, actually. You don't want to make the crews nervous. You just want a fair race. So keeping them calm is likely to help them to perform. Good umpiring by Sir Matt.
And I do think that one of the real advantages of having so many umpires who have been, you know, excellent athletes themselves is they have that understanding of, you know, they know what it's like to sit in that seat. You know what it's like when you're trying to correct steering in a boat and someone's shouting at you from behind. So I think that's, like you said, it's a very good understanding on how to still strictly umpire, but in a fair way.
Absolutely. You're trying to create the conditions for a first class and a fair and a safe race, and that's what we're trying to do here at Henley. And I think that's what we've seen. Really impressed by this Headington School crew. Super well drilled, composed, relaxed, calm, but still dynamic and aggressive, even with this advantage. I've got to say, Henley will be pretty pleased to have held on to the position, really. They haven't slipped much further in the second half of the race.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Henley should be really proud of this race. They just kept bringing it to Headington. They kept bringing the challenge, and Headington haven't been able to completely switch off. But I think Headington are on a mission this week, and you can see that with every stroke they're laying down.
So appreciative cheers from the crowd as Alice Stapley, Emma Annalise Miles, Amelia Pilar, Amelia Cleed, Magdalene McGuinness, Helena Purvis, Isabel Jeans, Sophie Haseman and Sophie Wrightson cross the line for Headington School, just ahead of Henley Rowing Club. No shame on them. That really was a great performance to hold them to such a distance. But I can see in the Henley Rowing Club crew that Cox Matilda raised a hand, which is asking the umpire to comment, maybe has an objection. Catherine, what's going on here?
I'm not entirely sure, if I'm honest. I think this is always the, from a spectator, it's awful. It's the interesting bit of, we didn't really see if something had happened that would cause the umpire to question that result. So interesting from the Cox's seat what they felt, and it usually means there's been either, you know, an obstruction or some interference they felt during the race.
So yeah, the Cox is appealing, which means asking the umpire to have a conversation. I would imagine that with Headington being warned so much, so he did hold up a flag. I think that was just at the end though, so the flag would mean an indicator to the line judge, to the finish judge, that he wants to await giving a verdict on the race until he's heard the appeal. So that's the signal there, I think. He's flagged though. Let's just see. He's now talking to the Henley Cox. My suspicion, maybe wrong, is that Henley are saying, listen, you were warning these guys, they were in our water, they were interfering with us. And Matthew will have to consider whether he thinks that's true or not.
You can see from where we sit the thumbs coming up from Matthew, so that's a white flag, so that is official.
So the white flag means he's declared the verdict is secure, so that's a clear win for Headington School. He rejected the appeal from the plucky young women of Henley Rowing Club. Really impressive performance from them to narrow the gap from the national schools just a few weeks ago.